So today I'm going to talk a little bit about personal development. Yeah, we have to go through that, and I want to discuss positions. I mean, guitar positions, and as in scale positions and such.
Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe.
So, first part of the podcast, why I want to talk about personal stuff, because, I think it's very, very important regarding learning an instrument, because when we do, we are sort of attempting to change the way the brain functions, right? Or we're trying to change the way we learn things. And hopefully, by that time, you may have understood that if you don't change the way you internalize stuff, it will be harder. If you stick to a certain way of learning, you say when you learn to write or when you learn mathematics when you're a kid, you want to ingrain the things in a certain specific way. But in music, if you don't change the process in which you learn, you're not going to get very far. So personal development is part of that. It's like working on your character, becoming a, let's say, quote unquote, better person. And there's something I've published on the website. It's a series of articles that are compilations of a really interesting author I found on the web called Steve Bellina. And this guy says, basically, whatever you do, you should try to be a better person doing it, going at it. And I strongly noticed that in my own musical development and development in general, is if I worked on myself first, all the things would take care of themselves. And that goes from really simple things as biting your nails or changing what you eat and exercising, and it goes all the way to dealing with the issues you may have with your relationships in your past, or dealing with the way you deal with others, addictions to drugs or whatever types of addictions. And all of this plays a big role in learning music, because I find that the best artists I've encountered so far are really super humans. They're people that are really nice, and not only a fake type of nice, but they deep down, that they worked on themselves to appear to the better light. And honestly, a big part of that is being able to see reality for what it is. And that can be a little confusing, or that can be shocking, when you find out that you've been having a misconception about a thing or things in your life. And that's why, honestly, I think people grow all the time. And that's why you may say, I didn't see it at first, and I was married for 14 years, but now it doesn't work. And there's something else that may work after that. Or whatever your story or my story is, doesn't matter. So I just wanted to, mention that. Keep that in mind. For me, on a really personal note, when I started to really take care of what I was eating, and to really honestly spend time in practice and see, okay, am I really practicing 6 hours during a day? No, it's more like an hour and a half. Oh, okay. So let's just see that in the right light. And am I able to perform at that tempo, or am I able to, produce write composed 3 tunes a week, or am I able to do this or do that? And it came to play a big part in my own development, just seeing things. Exercising also is a big one. I mean, I was talking to someone about on one of the videos about what's the most comfortable position. Take your axe and make sure you're relaxed. For me, the exercise part is really yoga. It's a really age-old Indian type of school. It's a practice. In fact, it's not just like exercising, like running or going on a bicycle ride. So that really does it for me. So anyways, I want to wrap this up now, but keep in mind that whatever you do, when you work on yourself, you can never go wrong. Even if you don't practice the instrument much, if you change your mindset, if you change your inside, your personality, other things outside of you will change also.
Hey everyone, just a quick break here. If you're loving this episode and you want to elevate your own jazz guitar skills, reach out to us. We've guided thousands of guitarists in becoming accomplished jazzers beyond their wildest dreams. So check the link in the description or visit jazzguitarlessons.net to get started today. Okay, now back to the episode.
Now for the second part of this podcast. So I wanted to talk about scale positions. And I see all sorts of things on the web. I see all sorts of things in students, and I hear all sorts of things on recordings, and there's a lot of maybe there's a rather big misconception, and that's probably the biggest point I want to make today. Sadly, that a lot of guitarists think that something is good if they can play it in all positions, and there's a part of truth to that, that's for sure. But the thing is, if you want to play Donnelly, you should really be able to play it really well in one fingering that you decided, and not necessarily in 12 fingerings. Because, hey, what's the use? If someone listens to you on a recording, he won't know which one of the 12 positions you chose to play the tune in. So in my opinion, positions are a great learning tool for taking the neck apart, saying this is one box, this is one box, this is one box. But the instrument of the guitar, is not the boxes. The instrument is itself. The boxes are just the way we decided to separate it. So hopefully, if you practice enough positions, you're trying to get rid of them. And that's my whole philosophy in there. Meaning you're attempting to do position shifts that are seamless, and you can improvise and not be thinking of, okay, I'm going to stick to this position for this. Music, creative patterns, whatever you're doing, should not be bounded by positions. And if you're working on a pattern, and that's, once more, I know people can throw tomatoes at me for saying this, but if you're learning a pattern, let's say we're in C major now, okay? Here. I won't even tell you what fingerings, I just want you to hear this. That's C major, right? If you're working on this, it doesn't really matter if you're able to do this in all positions. Yes, it's a good mechanical exercise, but in another way, you should be able to say, all right, I'll do like a saxophone player. You start at the bottom of the instrument here. You start at the lowest note and you do that up until the highest note. That's my approach, that's my philosophy. And why would I say that instead of saying positions? I could say, yeah, do positions. But somewhere in the position, you'll find a fingering that's awkward, and you need to use your pinky, and your pinky is not so strong, you have tendinitis, I don't know what. And you'll find that musically it detracts from the music. So what I say is, take the lowest note on your instrument, start your pattern, go all the way up, go all the way back down. You know what? You'll see positions in there, but you'll see position shifts, you go from one position to another, you'll see this, you'll see that, and same thing applies if you're attempting to learn a really hard tune. You don't have to take Autumn Leaves or Shadow of Your Smile or Solar and say, I learned it in 4 positions. As a teacher, what I want to hear is close my eyes, right? Play me Solar. Can you make it sound good? Yes. Cool. That's it. You got it. And the thing with positions is, if you go really overkill, you'll be able to learn a tune every 6 months. And I don't think it's worth it. I think being able to freely skate, and that's paraphrasing Mick Goodrick, if you're able to go up and down your instrument and hear what you're doing, is more important than being really, really strict about positions. But once more, I'm not disregarding positions. I think they're great. I think they're a great learning tool. But it's not everything to see in positions. For instance, there was a guy that wanted to take private lessons. And he took a few lessons with me. He was a really great player, in fact. And we were looking at different things on blues and, by Wes Montgomery. And started to play a solo, and then I showed him a few things. He said, yeah, but you're not singing a position. I said, yes, so, well, it says, well, the jazz masters, all the great people, it flows really nicely. I say, yes, but how is the flow related to sticking to one position? Then we went on YouTube, you watch Wes Montgomery play for 5 minutes, you're like, okay. There's no such thing as trying to play in a position. And it doesn't mean that Wes did not learn his position. No, on the contrary. He learned all positions, he did his stuff, all right. But this type of thinking patterns for me can be really a problem in guitarists. Learn your stuff, and that goes back to the personal development. Learn your stuff and then see other ways you can learn the same exact stuff, right? Especially, another example, if you're trying to learn Donna Lee by Charlie Parker, or a bebop song, something fast, Anthropology, I don't know, whatever you like. If you are saying, I want to stick to one position, I would have to ask you why. Because first thing that comes into my mind is, this tune was written by a sax player. There's no such thing as a better position to play it. It's just sound, and there might be a better fingering to do it on the sax, that's for sure. But as far as guitar goes, you may have to switch position in the middle of it because some things will be either impossible or not practical. You know what I mean? They will be really difficult to render at high speed or at the speed that the song was written. So if you're learning a sax tune, a trumpet tune, a piano tune, a violin tune, or whatever tune, you should really not do that. So that'll be it for today. I mean, keep learning your positions, but you may also try to find other ways you may deal with your fretboard. So that's it for podcast number 9, jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. See you next time.